Now we have an industry address on India's readiness for 5G infrastructure. What should we look for in the next few years, and how can the industry prepare better to adapt to the new technology? Some of the key aspects would be addressed in this session. I would like to invite Akhil Gupta, Vice Chairman, Bharti Enterprises Ltd, to share the matrix. Welcome, Mr. Gupta. Over to you.
Thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts on this session titled India's Readiness for 5G Infrastructure. Quite clearly, India is getting ready to launch 5G in future, and assuming that this time around, the spectrum prices are kept at very reasonable or nominal levels, we should hope that well before the end of this year, India should have 5G and join the nations which are providing 5G services. I think we are all aware that the infrastructure needed for 5G will be of a very different magnitude than what it was needed for 4G. Just to list a few items, I think we will need hundreds of thousands of small cells because of the nature of the spectrum to be used for 5G. Fiberisation of the existing 500,000 towers from 30 to at least 80-85% will become an absolute must to handle the data traffic. All the small cells being put up will have to be practically 100% on fiber from day one. And there will have to be a big augmentation of interstate, intrastate, and intracity optic fiber network. Now, this is obviously a very tall order. And I think an absolute must would be to create this infrastructure as soon as possible. Now, to my mind, the 4 or 5 big requirements to achieve this will be, first and foremost, the difference in 5G and 4G will be that while 4G could have been delivered with infrastructure on private properties or private premises, I think for 5G, we will need what is called a street furniture, which primarily would belong to the government. For instance, things like lamp posts, the bus shelters, government buildings, government land, electric poles, etc., etc. So I think these are all going to be within the government domain. Now, TRAI and DOT have already been working on this because this would need a very comprehensive, all-encompassing guideline and policies, and they have started some pilots in consultation with the service providers and the infrastructure providers. I hope the consultative process will be started soon, but unfortunately, I believe it's a little late already. We need to double up on this because unless this consultative process and the guidelines are brought out very quickly and then taken up by the states, we unfortunately will have a position where our cities and towns will be permanently dug up due to multiple creation of infrastructure. The second piece will be further strengthening of the right-of-way policy, which DOT has done a wonderful job in coming out with. That deals mainly with the towers at this moment. But I think some of these states which have not yet adopted, we need to do that with the help of DOT, who have been wonderful in their support in getting this done. Only a few states are left, and I hope they would also adopt it quickly. The third piece will be, I think, the scope of IPs. Once the infrastructure providers will need to be enhanced in line with whatever has already been agreed within the National Digital Policy. I think 5G will need some elements of active infrastructure to be brought within the ambit of IP1. I think the reasons for those are two. One, all this infrastructure, unless shared, will absolutely ruin our cities and towns, as I said, because there will be multiple infrastructure creation already. The infrastructure in cities is not good. It could come to a complete standstill. The second reason is that the operators, as we all know, have faced difficult times, and infrastructure providers will be in an easier position to provide for billions of dollars of capex that would be required for creation of this infrastructure. One specific aspect I think we all need to deal with, and the government has got to take that up seriously, is inclusion of the resident welfare associations, who have been at times creating a lot of problems in giving access or putting up the infrastructure. I think as the right-of-way policy and the street furniture policy are finalized, I think this is one aspect which I would urge DOT and TRAI to keep specifically in mind. I have no doubt that with the recent pragmatic steps taken by the government of India to try and see that there are 3 viable, healthy telecom operators in the country, there is a good scope for 5G in the coming years. It will need a lot of capex, both on the electronic side and the infrastructure side. And it could be a little long haul because some of the use cases will need to be developed. But I am very certain that as we ensure that the operators are in a good financial health, I think all the members of Digital Infrastructure Providers Association will come up and be able to fund the massive infrastructure capex requirements. I have no doubt that the government, the regulator, and the private players in the industry will all combine to make the aim of providing broadband internet to all in this country a reality soon, in which 5G obviously will play a major role. The 5G infrastructure, just to summarize, will be vital. It will be very different from 4G, and therefore some of the policy and guideline decisions will need to be taken up now before it is too late. My best wishes for a very successful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for sharing insights. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to visit the expo area for the partner booths. Enjoy the event and stay tuned.